From the heart of Macedonia, in a time when empires rose and fell by the sword, a child was born who would reshape the world. This is the story of Alexander the Great. In 356 BCE, in the ancient city of Pella, Macedonia, Alexander entered a world of ambition, valor, and destiny. He was the son of King Philip II, a brilliant military strategist who united the fractious Greek city-states, and Queen Olympias, a woman of fierce intelligence and unyielding devotion. From the very beginning, Alexander's life was a delicate balance between royal privilege and the weight of expectation. As a child, he displayed a curiosity and courage that set him apart from his peers. It is said that when Alexander was only 12 years old, he tamed Bucephalus, a horse deemed untamable by even the kingdom's finest trainers. Where others saw an impossible challenge, the young prince saw a test of wit, courage, and intuition. His bond with Bucephalus would become legendary, a symbol of his determination and the spirit of conquest that would define his life. Education was the cornerstone of Alexander's upbringing. He was tutored by Aristotle, one of the greatest philosophers of the era, who instilled in him a lifelong thirst for knowledge, logic, and the understanding of the natural world. Through Aristotle, Alexander explored literature, science, philosophy, and medicine. These lessons were not mere academics. They were tools to shape a mind capable of ruling an empire. Yet, childhood for Alexander was not free of shadows. Court intrigues, political rivalries, and the constant pressure to live up to his father's monumental legacy surrounded him. Queen Olympias fueled his ambition with stories of heroes and gods, convincing him that greatness was his destiny. These early lessons of courage, intellect, and ambition forged a young man who would not only inherit a kingdom, but dream of conquering the known world. By the age of 16, Alexander was already leading troops into battle, proving his mettle and earning the respect of seasoned generals. His youthful eyes were set not merely on Macedonia, but on the world beyond its borders, envisioning an empire where cultures, ideas, and peoples would intermingle under his command. The stage was set, and destiny waited. From the quiet halls of Pella to the vast plains of Greece, the first chapters of Alexander the Great's epic journey were written, laying the foundation for a legacy that would echo through millennia. The young prince who once tamed Bucephalus now faced a kingdom on the brink. It was time to step from the shadows of his father and claim his destiny with the assassination of King Philip II in 336 BCE. The throne of Macedonia passed to Alexander, barely 20 years old. The young king inherited not only a powerful army, but also a kingdom rife with tension, political rivalries, and skeptical nobles questioning his ability to rule. Many saw him as inexperienced, a boy too young to command loyalty from generals who had fought under his father. Yet Alexander's resolve was unwavering. He moved quickly, decisively, eliminating threats and consolidating his power. Revolts in neighboring cities were quelled with both strategic brilliance and calculated diplomacy. His ability to inspire loyalty was extraordinary. The same courage and intuition that tamed Bucephalus now guided him through the treacherous terrain of Macedonian politics. Beyond the borders of Macedonia, Greece remained fractious. City-states such as Thebes and Athens watched the new king with suspicion. Alexander demonstrated both audacity and diplomacy, using a combination of force and negotiation to secure Macedonia's dominance over Greece. Within a short period, he transformed skepticism into respect, proving that his ambition was matched by intelligence, courage, and unmatched strategic acumen. It was during this period that Alexander began to envision a campaign beyond Greece, one that would challenge the mighty Persian Empire. Inspired by his father's plans and driven by a personal vision of glory, he meticulously prepared his army, studying tactics, terrain, and logistics. His military genius was evident even in small skirmishes, as he tested formations, experimented with phalanx movements, and motivated his soldiers to push beyond their limits. Alexander's rise was not merely political or military, it was symbolic. Tales of his bravery spread quickly. He led charges, faced danger alongside his men, and earned a reputation that would strike both awe and fear into allies and enemies alike. By the age of 21, he had secured Macedonia, subdued Greece, and set the stage for a campaign that would extend his influence across continents. The young king's vision was clear. Macedonia was merely the first step. The world beyond the Persian Empire, lands of unimaginable wealth and power awaited the ambition of Alexander. His rise to power was swift, relentless, and inevitable. From the quiet halls of Pella to the front lines of Greek cities, the boy who once tamed a horse had become a king whose name, having secured his throne and united Greece, Alexander stood at the threshold of destiny. Now, the world would witness the reign of a king whose ambition knew no bounds. By the age of 22, Alexander had become more than a king. He was the living embodiment of Macedonian ambition and strategy. With Greece secured and loyalty consolidated, his gaze turned eastward, toward the vast Persian Empire, the jewel of the known world. His army, a disciplined phalanx, honed by years of rigorous training and loyalty, followed him into campaigns that would define the age of absolute rule. Alexander's approach to power was both brilliant and absolute. He demanded unwavering loyalty from generals and soldiers alike, yet he inspired devotion by sharing their risks, facing danger in every battle, and celebrating victories with them. Every campaign was meticulously planned. Supply lines, terrain analysis, and tactical formations were executed with precision that few had ever witnessed. Persia, with its immense wealth and sprawling territories, became Alexander's ultimate challenge. At battles like Granicus, Issus, and Gaugamela, his genius was undeniable. He combined speed, strategy, and psychological warfare, outmaneuvering far larger forces and securing decisive victories. His ability to adapt, whether confronting war elephants, cavalry charges, or fortified cities, demonstrated that absolute rule required more than inheritance. It demanded intellect, courage, and vision. But Alexander's reign extended beyond the battlefield. He sought to merge cultures, adopting elements of Persian dress, court, ceremonies, and governance, encouraging marriages between his officers and local nobility. This blend of Macedonian strength and Persian sophistication cemented his rule, creating a sense of unity across conquered lands. Cities were rebuilt, trade flourished, and administrative reforms ensured that his empire was not merely a collection of conquered territories, but a cohesive realm. Despite his unparalleled successes, absolute rule carried weighty responsibilities and constant challenges. Revolts erupted, allies tested their loyalty, and whispers of discontent arose even within his inner circle. Yet Alexander's charisma and decisive leadership quelled dissent, demonstrating that true power was as much about perception as it was about might. In this period, Alexander transformed from a brilliant young king into a sovereign whose very presence reshaped politics, culture, and military strategy. His vision of empire stretched from the Aegean to the Indus, and his influence would leave a mark on history for millennia. The age of absolute rule was not merely a period of conquest. It was the forging of a legacy, a testament to a king whose ambition, intellect, and courage elevated him beyond mortal bounds. By the age of 25, Alexander the Great had achieved what most kings could only dream of. From the plains of Greece to the deserts of Egypt, and as far east as the Indus River, his empire sprawled across thousands of miles. Cities flourished under his rule, trade routes expanded, and knowledge flowed freely across cultures. Alexander's vision was not merely conquest. It was the creation of a world where ideas, peoples, and traditions merged under one banner. Egypt welcomed him as a liberator, and in 331 BCE, he founded the city of Alexandria, a center of learning and culture that would endure for centuries. The Nile's fertile lands and bustling ports reflected the prosperity that came with his leadership, while the Ptolemaic dynasty that he initiated would carry his legacy long after his passing. Across Persia, his victories were legendary. At the battles of Issus and Gaugamela, he outmaneuvered armies far larger than his own, demonstrating unparalleled strategy, courage, and tactical brilliance. Each city he conquered, from Babylon to Persepolis, became a symbol of his unrelenting ambition. Palaces were rebuilt, treasures collected, and the Persian nobility integrated into his administration, creating a blend of cultures unprecedented in history. In India, Alexander faced new challenges, unfamiliar terrain, massive war elephants, and fierce local kingdoms. Yet, even in these lands, his vision of uniting East and West persisted. He encouraged intermarriage between his soldiers and local populations, and Greek culture mingled with Indian traditions, leaving an enduring legacy of cross-cultural influence. But glory came with burdens. Alexander's army, weary from years of campaigns, sometimes rebelled. Maintaining control over such vast lands required relentless leadership, diplomacy, and personal charisma. Despite these challenges, his empire stood as the pinnacle of ambition and achievement in the ancient world, a testament to the mind, courage, and vision of one extraordinary man. At the height of his power, Alexander was not just a conqueror. He was a symbol of what determination, intellect, and relentless courage could achieve. His empire's grandeur reflected the glory of a king who dared to dream beyond the known world, leaving an indelible mark on history that would inspire generations to come. Even the greatest empires face shadows. For Alexander, glory came hand in hand with exhaustion, rebellion, and the immense burden of absolute power. As Alexander's empire stretched Across continents, the limits of human endurance became painfully clear. Years of relentless campaigns, harsh climates, and endless battles weighed heavily on both the king and his loyal army. Soldiers, once inspired by the thrill of conquest, grew weary. Rumors of mutiny rippled through the ranks as fatigue and homesickness tested even the most disciplined troops. Despite these challenges, Alexander pressed onward. In the Indian subcontinent, he faced not only massive war elephants and unfamiliar terrain, but also fiercely determined local kingdoms. Every victory required ingenuity, courage, and the careful balancing of strategy and diplomacy. Yet, even as he triumphed on the battlefield, whispers of dissent and the harsh reality of governing a sprawling empire began to cast shadows over his reign. Internal tensions added to the crisis. Commanders who had once followed him unquestioningly began to challenge decisions, questioning whether the cost of conquest was too high. Cities and regions under his control sometimes resisted integration, forcing Alexander to negotiate, punish, or co-opt in equal measure. The brilliance that had brought him unparalleled victories now had to be applied to maintain loyalty and stability. Alexander himself was not immune to the pressures of absolute power. He struggled with the weight of expectations, the complexities of administration, and the constant drive to achieve what no man before him had achieved. His vision of a united empire was tested against the realities of human ambition, resistance, and mortality. Even the glory of Alexandria, Babylon, and other great cities could not shield him from the growing shadows that accompanied an empire of unprecedented scale. Yet in every crisis, Alexander revealed why he was extraordinary. His leadership, charisma, and tactical brilliance turned near disasters into lessons for future triumphs. He pushed boundaries, inspired loyalty, and maintained the cohesion of an empire that spanned continents. The age of Alexander was defined not only by conquest and glory, but also by the challenges that tested his genius, resilience, and humanity. The empire's brilliance shone brightest against the backdrop of struggle, a reminder that even the greatest king must navigate war, crisis, and the shadows that accompany absolute power. Alexander's journey was far from over, but the trials he faced in these moments would define the man, the leader, and the legend that history remembers. Even the mightiest of kings must face the inevitable twilight of life. For Alexander the Great, the world had been conquered, but destiny awaited him in the shadows by 323 BCE. Alexander's unstoppable march across the known world had brought him fame, wealth, and unparalleled power. Yet even the greatest ambitions cannot escape the limits of mortality. In the grand city of Babylon, surrounded by his closest generals and the cities he had forged into an empire, Alexander fell gravely ill. The cause remains debated by historians: fever, exhaustion, or the toll of relentless campaigns, but the impact was undeniable. A world that had followed his vision now faced uncertainty. In his final days, Alexander reflected on the empire he had built. From Macedonia to India, from Alexandria to Babylon, he had united diverse lands, cultures, and peoples under one banner. His dream of fusion between East and West, of knowledge, art, and ideas spreading beyond borders, was only beginning to take root. Despite his youth, he had reshaped the political map of the world, leaving a legacy unmatched in human history. Yet, even in death, his presence inspired loyalty and awe. Generals and soldiers mourned, yet immediately began the struggle for succession. As his empire vast, sprawling, and diverse could not be held by a single hand. Cities he had founded thrived. Trade routes remained alive, and Greek, Persian, and Indian cultures began blending in ways Alexander had envisioned. His vision lived on in the minds of rulers, scholars, and historians for centuries. The legacy of Alexander the Great is more than conquests and battles. It is the story of a mind that dared to imagine the impossible, of a leader whose courage and ambition inspired generations, and of a world forever changed by one man's relentless pursuit of glory. He became a symbol not only of military genius, but also of the power of vision, ambition, and resilience. As the sun sets over Babylon, we are reminded that history is alive, waiting to be discovered, remembered, and celebrated. Alexander's story is one of many legends, and the world is full of kings, empires, and extraordinary lives yet to be explored. If you want to witness more stories of legendary rulers who shaped the course of history, make sure to subscribe to Legends of the Crown. Hit the bell icon and join us on this journey through the ages. Every crown tells a story, and every story awaits your discovery.